Winchester Mystery House, San Jose, California. As the sun began to set on the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, a group of daring ghost hunters stepped cautiously through the front door. The heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, Sarah Winchester, had built the house over a century ago, and it was known for its strange and elaborate architecture, including doors that led to nowhere and windows built into the floor. The ghost hunters had heard the rumors of the house being haunted by the ghosts of those killed by Winchester rifles, and they were determined to uncover the truth. As they made their way through the winding corridors and empty rooms, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, one of the hunters let out a blood-curdling scream. The others rushed to his side to find him staring at a ghostly figure floating in front of him. The ghostly apparition seemed to be beckoning them to follow, and they hesitated for only a moment before setting off after it. As they pursued the ghost deeper into the house, they were met with more and more terrifying sights. Doors swung open and shut on their own, and objects flew through the air as if controlled by an unseen force. The hunters knew they were in over their heads, but they couldn't bring themselves to turn back. Finally, they reached the heart of the house, a room filled with the ghosts of those killed by Winchester rifles. The ghostly apparitions seemed to be writhing in agony, their faces twisted in pain. The hunters knew they had to escape, but it was too late. The ghosts closed in around them, and the hunters could feel their icy hands reaching for their throats. Just when all hope seemed lost, a bright light appeared in the center of the room. The ghosts retreated, and the hunters saw Sarah Winchester standing before them, a peaceful expression on her face. She explained that she had built the house to provide a home for the ghosts, who had been seeking revenge for their untimely deaths. The ghost hunters realized that they had been wrong to seek out the spirits, and they vowed to leave the Winchester Mystery House in peace. As they left the house, they knew they had just narrowly escaped with their lives, and they would never forget the terrifying experience they had encountered within its walls. Baker Hotel, Mineral Wells, Texas. I had always been a bit of a thrill seeker, so when I heard about the job opening at the haunted Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells, I knew I had to apply. Despite the rumors that the hotel was home to the ghosts of former guests and employees, I was convinced I could handle whatever the place had to throw at me. I was thrilled when I was offered the job, and I eagerly packed my bags and headed to Mineral Wells. When I arrived at the hotel, I was struck by its grandeur. It was clear that the Baker Hotel had once been a place of great luxury, and I couldn't wait to start exploring. I was assigned to the front desk, and for the first week of my job, everything seemed normal. Guests checked in and out, and I went about my duties with a smile on my face. I made friends with many of the other staff members and even started to develop feelings for a young woman named Sarah. But one night, everything changed. As I was closing up for the evening, I heard a strange noise coming from one of the rooms. As I cautiously entered the room, I couldn't believe my eyes. There, on the bed, was a man dressed in a suit, talking to someone on the ceiling. At first, I thought I must be hallucinating. But as I stood there, frozen in shock, the man on the ceiling turned to look at me. His eyes seemed to pierce right through me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. My blood ran cold. I quickly checked a few more rooms. But the horrors only continued. In one room, I saw a ghostly woman hovering above the ground, her long hair floating around her as she wailed in agony. In another room, I saw a ghostly child playing with an old, battered toy, a look of sorrow etched on its face. But the worst was yet to come. As I made my way to the last room on the floor, I heard a strange, guttural noise coming from inside. I hesitated for a moment, not sure if I wanted to see what was causing the noise. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I slowly opened the door. As soon as I stepped inside, I was met with a sight that sent shivers down my spine. There, in the center of the room, was a ghostly figure with glowing red eyes and sharp, jagged teeth. It let out a ferocious growl as it lunged towards me, its claws outstretched. I turned and fled back to the front desk, where I found Sarah waiting for me. "Sarah, you won't believe what I just saw," I said, panting and out of breath. "There are ghosts everywhere in this hotel." Sarah's face became deathly pale as she looked at me with a sad, but terrifying expression. "Jason, I'm sorry to tell you this," she said in a ghostly whisper, "but I'm no human. And everyone you've met here for the last week are dead for centuries. There are no human guests in this hotel." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah, the beautiful woman I had been flirting with and trying to impress, was a ghost. And now, I was trapped in a hotel full of ghosts, with no way out. Sarah seemed to sense my fear and desperation. She let out a haunting laugh, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You should have known better than to mess with the supernatural, Jason," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "You're doomed to spend eternity with us, just like all the other foolish mortals who have stumbled into this haunted hotel." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had thought I had found a new home and a new love, but now it seemed like it was all just a dream. I knew I had to get out of there before it was too late, but as I turned to leave, I realized that the beautiful hotel was starting to turn into a dark, sinister place. The walls seemed to be closing in on me, and I could feel the ghosts reaching out to me, trying to draw me into the darkness. I knew I had to run, and I didn't stop until I was miles away from the Baker Hotel. I never looked back, and I never returned to the Baker Hotel. To this day, I still wake up in a cold sweat, haunted by the memory of the ghostly Sarah and the other spirits I encountered in that haunted place. Even in my dreams, Sarah still appears to me, asking me to come back to the hotel and join her in the afterlife. St. Augustine Lighthouse, Florida. The three children from New York, Emily, Sarah, and James, had always been fascinated by stories of ghosts and hauntings, so when they heard about the haunted St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida, they couldn't wait to visit. Their grandparents, who lived in St. Augustine, had told them the story of the ghost of a former keeper who had fallen to his death while working on the light, and the children were eager to see if it was true. One night, Emily convinced her siblings to sneak out after dinner and visit the lighthouse without telling their grandparents. Sarah and James were hesitant at first, but Emily was determined. After some disagreement, the three of them set off towards the towering structure. As they climbed the winding staircase to the top of the lighthouse, the children couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. They heard strange noises and saw shadowy figures moving in the corners of their eyes, but they weren't afraid. They were convinced it was all just their imaginations. But as they reached the top of the lighthouse, things took a turn for the worse. Emily suddenly disappeared, and her siblings couldn't find her anywhere. They called out for her, but there was no response. As Sarah and James searched for their sister, they began to experience strange and terrifying events. Sarah saw ghostly apparitions writhing and moaning in agony, while James felt a cold hand reach out and touch him. They knew they had to get out of there, but they couldn't find their way back down the staircase. Just when they thought all hope was lost, they heard a faint voice calling out to them. It was Emily, who had managed to find her way back to the entrance. The two siblings regrouped and raced towards the voice, but as they frantically searched for a way out, they suddenly heard a loud, creepy laughter behind them. They turned to see the ghost of the former keeper standing before them, blocking their escape. The ghost let out a wicked cackle, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "You'll never leave this lighthouse," it hissed. Panicked, they turned to run, but the ghost was too fast. As Emily watched in horror, the keeper reached out and grabbed Sarah and James, pulling them back into the darkness of the lighthouse. She tried to grab onto them, but it was too late. They were gone, dragged away by the ghostly keeper. Emily managed to break free and ran out of the lighthouse as fast as she could, her heart racing with fear. She could still hear the keeper's ghostly laughter echoing behind her, taunting her as she fled. Even after 15 years, Emily still experiences nightmares about that terrifying night at the St. Augustine Lighthouse. She can still feel the keeper's icy grip on her shoulder, and the fear that consumes her as she runs from the haunted lighthouse. She knows she will never be able to forget what happened, and the thought of Sarah and James being trapped there with the ghostly keeper still haunts her. Thank you for watching this story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. If you're feeling brave enough, leave a comment and let us know which story was the most frightening for you. And if you have any horror stories of your own that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them.